There's 4 primals on an animal. You got the loin section, the round section, the rib section, which is stops about here, and then the chuck. Those are the primals. Subprimals are your strip, your tender. As you break it further down, that becomes a subprimal to the main primals. This is where your porterhouse, T-bone, bone-in strip, all those are cut out of the short loin. What he's pulling off is the kidney fat.
You said they use that to grade kidney fat?
It's part of when they evaluate the carcass for the lean ratio or the yield grade. They look at how much kidney fat's in that animal. It helps them decide if it's a yield grade. If it's sitting on the fence between a yield grade 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 or 3 and 4, etc., that helps them decide how fat that animal is and see what yield grade they're going to put on it. This is for you, Ron. Usually, because of where we bought the carcass from, we got it from one of the, I think Rick got it, or Brian got it from the University of Georgia or Auburn. Usually the schools, because they're doing live slaughter there, and when you ship carcasses in from the packers, all that's out. Yeah, they're even starting to take the inside and outside skirts out of them. So they're doing that on the kill floor.
What do you do with the
Us? Ours goes out to, we've got an edible renderer or inedible renderer that picks up here twice a day. But the packers will take that and they'll put it in their edible rendering and they'll ship it as tallow.
Shoreloin. Shoreloin with tenderloin.
This would be
3 by 2.
Yeah. The measurements on a 1x1 strip, 3x2 short loin. That's what they're talking about. The numbers that are there is the lip length from the edge of that eye muscle. So you get an 0x1 strip means you have no tail on the rib end of the loin, and you have a 1-inch tail on the sirloin end of the loin, or this end. Now the way he broke that, you still have the butt tender in it. On a short loin that comes from the packers, they just take a saw and they split it right across there. So that means you won't get a butt tender. They separate the butt tender out and sell it separately. Don't try this at home by yourself. You keep a belly guard on. Yes, it is. Yes. The butt tender is the head of the tenderloin.
Right. And some people cut that off and sell it as a...
Well, the packers, when they do a short loin ad, then you break the butt tenders off and you sell them off. That's your bone-in strip or shell strip. And that's your whole fat-on tender that nobody sells anymore. I was in New York at Peter Luger's, and they had they were selling what they called a drop short loin, which is pretty much everything that was still on this. And that was the old way to do it. It came out of the New York markets. And Marilyn she still dry aged that product, but she wanted us to sell it to her that way. And unless you're a packer, you really can't. That meat's not available. We were buying it in from the packers like this. Now that's your fat on tender that's been cleaned up a little bit. The next step is peeling that off, and it becomes the 5-up Pismo. We actually had a few customers request us to dry age that piece, but it's become almost impossible to get because they're hot trimming cattle now on the kill floor as they produce. So they're stripping all of that kidney fat and that heavy fat out of the carcass before it goes over to the chill box.
Is that hot trim?
Yes.
Is that what that means?
Mm-hmm. That would be your Pismo. Not that. This is.
You're not the bitter stage.
Yeah.
Take that silver off. Go, man, go.
I actually attempted this at my house once I got to Buckhead. I've been at Buckhead for 14 years and said, I can cut my own meat. What he's doing in about 30 seconds took me an hour, and decided portion control was the way to go. At this point, we'll clean the shingles off, get it down to what we call steak ready. The Packers call the Pismo steak ready. The only people that steak ready to is a retailer. They'll take it out of the bag, leave all that on it, and bread loaf it end to end. A Pismo. The Packers say that's steak ready. That's steak ready to us. From a Pismo to that true steak ready tender, you're about 65% of what you started with.
Steak ready, it also means cut the.
Well, that's steak ready to the Packers too, and it's not anywhere close yet. He just took off the chine bone so we can actually get to the boneless 180 strip. This is a very technical part of the presentation. And that's your 13th rib. That's where the break is on the carcass. You can where the grade comes from. This one has 14. That's just the national grading standard that tells it keeps the grader on the same page that everybody's breaking them in the same place. But that entire carcass is graded. If it grades choice on that cross section in that 20 seconds, every piece of meat that comes off that carcass is the same grade. They don't grade tenders and top butts and strips individually. Once it's stamped choice, that entire carcass becomes choice. So you don't separate the subprimals and then regrade them. So it all happens at one time in about 20 seconds.
Have they always graded in the same position?
Yes, in the U.S. we have. Now South America breaks. There's a different break for them. They break it between the 4th and 5th rib.
Yeah.
It's way down, further down in the chuck.
Is there an advantage or disadvantage of that? Grade
All depends on what you're used to looking at. The cattle look richer if you break them further down into the chuck because you got a lot more of the star fat and all that you're looking at. Now this is your boneless 180 strip. The way he's got it cut, since we came off of a 2x3 short loin, you got a 4-inch.
2 by 3.
You got a 2x3 strip now. Now it's a 1x1 commodity trim strip. The Packers have come out with 1x1 1/4-inch trim strips, and when we talk about a 1/4-inch trim product, it's the fat that's on the back, opposite the belly, is the trim spec.
0 or 1.
And that's your 0x1 commodity trim. To take that down to 1/4-inch trim would be what we're buying for steak-ready strips to go in our cut shop. Our goal is to leave as much fat with the Packer in the Midwest as humanly possible. I don't have a use for it here in Atlanta except paying a guy. He charged me 5 cents a pound to haul it off now, so it does not carry any value with us. This one actually is. I mean, I called cattle for 2 years, and that wouldn't make choice. The West Coast retail market kind of screwed us up for a while. They were pushing for lean. They wanted U.S. good product. They didn't want any fat in the retail stores. All of the quality was bred out of the cattle industry for a while, and that's what happened. That's your steak-ready strip.